You have seen the Maddy Perez edits, you have heard the audios, you probably have a favorite one-liner of hers saved somewhere, but today we are going deeper than that because there is something very specific happening underneath all of those moments that nobody has properly explained yet, and that is the real psychological reason why Maddy Perez commands the kind of attention and respect that most people spend their whole lives chasing and never quite find, and the most interesting thing about it is that she actually told us how she does it. 90% of life is confidence. And the thing about confidence is that nobody knows if it is real or not. Welcome back to Iconicer. And today we are breaking down exactly what that means, what the real principles behind her power are, and how you can use every single one of them to completely change the way people see you. So let us get into it. Have you ever noticed how the other characters in Euphoria treat Maddy's attention completely differently from the way they treat everyone else's? How when she acknowledges someone it actually means something? How nobody in that show takes her attention for granted the way they do with other characters. And the reason for that is something very specific that Maddy does consistently and almost nobody around her does, which is that she acknowledges without automatically entertaining. And what that means in practice is that when someone wants her attention, she lets them know she sees them, but she does not give them the full experience unless they have actually earned it. She has an unspoken standard, and everyone around her knows it. And this creates what psychologists call the scarcity effect, which is simply the idea that we value things more when they feel rare and harder to access. Think about limited edition items, or something that is only available for a short time. We want it more because we cannot just have it whenever we feel like it, and Maddy's attention works exactly like that. And the thing is, you can build this too. You do not have to give your full energy to every interaction. You do not have to entertain every conversation that comes your way. You get to have a standard, and the moment you start holding one, you will notice the exact same shift happening in how people treat your attention. Because once people realize that your engagement actually means something, they start working to keep it rather than taking it for granted. Here is something worth paying close attention to, because it is one of the biggest differences between Maddy and the characters around her, and it is something you can apply to your own life starting right now. And it is the way she sets a boundary versus the way most people do it. Because when Cassie tries to set a boundary in Euphoria, it comes wrapped in so many apologies and explanations and nervous qualifiers that by the end of the sentence the boundary has basically dissolved. She says things like, "I like you," "I am sorry," "I have a boyfriend," "I am sorry," and what that communicates to the person on the other side is that she is not even sure she is allowed to have the boundary in the first place, and people sense that, and they push accordingly. But Maddy, when something does not work for her, says one word, "no," and that is it. No explanation, no apology, no debate invited. And what that single word communicates is something that 100 apologetic sentences never could, which is that she values herself, that her words have weight, and that the boundary is not up for discussion. And the reason this matters so much is not about being cold or difficult. It is about what your response teaches people about how to treat you. And when you over-explain a boundary, you are actually signaling that you are not sure you deserve it. So the next time you need to say no to something, try saying just that, "no," and nothing else. Because the explanation is not what makes the boundary real. Your certainty is what makes it real, and Maddy has that certainty completely. Now here is the part that I think is the most important and the most misunderstood thing about Maddy Perez, because everyone talks about how confident she is as if it is just something she was born with, as if she woke up one day and it was just there, but she literally tells us in the show that it is not. She says 90% of life is confidence, and the thing about confidence is nobody knows if it is real or not. And that line is so important because what she is telling you is that confidence does not have to be fully real before it starts working. It just has to be expressed. And we know from her backstory that she built this in beauty pageants as a little girl. She was not necessarily the prettiest or the thinnest child in those competitions, but she understood something early that the other girls did not, which is that the girl who carries herself with certainty wins the room before she even opens her mouth. And the most conventionally pretty girl, who is insecure about it, will always lose to the slightly less pretty girl who has decided she belongs there. And Maddy practiced that version of herself so consistently for so long that it stopped being practice at all. It just became who she was. And this is the thing that I want you to really hear, because it is genuinely freeing. You do not have to feel confident before you start acting confident. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around. And every time you walk into a room like you belong there, even when you are not sure you are doing exactly what Maddy did in those pageants, and it compounds, and eventually you cannot tell the difference between the practice version and the real one because they have become the same thing. There is one move Maddy makes across the whole show that is so consistent and so deliberate that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And it connects directly to one of the most important ideas in the psychology of influence, which is that the person who makes others come to them is always more powerful than the person who chases, and Maddy never chases. Think about episode 1. She shows up to Nate's party in a soft romantic outfit and spends the night with someone else right in front of him. Not to be cruel, but to pull him toward her, and it works immediately. He comes straight to her, and she does the same thing at prom at the end of season 1, and at the New Year's party at the beginning of season 2. She creates the conditions for him to move toward her rather than moving toward him, and you see it in the smaller moments too. When someone tries to start drama with her, she does not explode. She stays completely calm and gives them almost nothing back. And that calmness is infuriating for the other person because they came to get a reaction and she refused to give them one. And a person who cannot be made to react is a person who cannot be controlled. And then there is the carnival moment, which is maybe the most Maddy thing that has ever happened on this show. She crashes a fundraiser to confront Nate, kicks off her heels mid-stride, hops over a stage barricade, walks up to the public microphone and says, "I know I am not supposed to be here right now because I am dressed like a hooker and none of you like me, but I just wanted to say congratulations," pushes over a pot of award-winning chili and walks away. And what makes that moment so extraordinary is not the chaos of it, but the composure inside the chaos. She planned every element of that entrance and that exit, and she executed the whole thing with the calm certainty of someone who already knew exactly how it was going to go before she kicked off the first heel. And that is the principle you can take from it. Whatever move you decide to make it with full commitment, because half-committed moves always land weaker than fully committed ones, and Maddy never does anything halfway. So let's bring all of this together, because the whole point of studying Maddy Perez is not to become her. It is to understand what she figured out and apply whatever resonates to your own life. And the 4 things that her character teaches us are actually very simple, even if they're not easy. The first is to make your attention scarce by having a genuine standard for who gets your full energy rather than giving it to everyone who asks for it. The second is to let your boundaries stand on their own without covering them in explanations and apologies, because the certainty is what makes them real, not the explanation. The third is to practice the version of yourself that already knows she belongs in the room, even when the internal feeling is still catching up, because it always catches up eventually. And the fourth is to stop chasing and start creating conditions, because the person who makes others come to them is always operating from a more powerful position than the one who is always moving toward others, and none of these things require you to be mean or cold or untouchable. Maddy is not any of those things underneath all of it. She is loyal and funny and genuinely warm with the people who have earned that from her. And that is actually the most important thing her character shows us, which is that these principles are not about keeping people out. They are about making sure the people who get in actually deserve to be there. Maddy Perez is not a perfect person, and the show never pretends she is, but she understands something about power and presence and self-worth that most of us are still figuring out. And the most honest summary of it is something she said herself. 90% of life is confidence, and nobody knows if it is real or not. So start practicing the version of yourself that already knows she is the most powerful person in the room, because eventually you will not be able to tell the difference between practicing and being, and neither will anyone else. Stay iconic.